Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm Karen Lipson. I'm an Executive Vice President with LeadingAge New York. LeadingAge New York is an association of not-for-profit and public providers of long-term and post-acute care services and senior services. Our members include the entire continuum of long-term and post-acute care, from senior housing through home care and hospice, adult day health care, nursing homes, managed long-term care, and continuing care retirement communities. So I'm here today to comment on two regulations on your agenda. I'll start now with this regulation before you, the direct care spending regulation. And we understand that this legislation and the regulation were enacted in order to improve quality of care and quality of life in nursing homes. And we share that goal, and our members share that goal. That is their reason for being. But this regulation is not going to have the desired effect. Instead of promoting high quality care, it will likely drain facilities of resources they need to serve residents. So our members spend the vast majority of the revenue they receive on providing resident care. However, this regulation uses arbitrary definitions and arbitrary percentages in order to determine and direct how they allocate their resources. And the end result will be to discourage facilities from making investments and making spending that will benefit residents and benefit staff. And it will not drive improved quality in nursing homes. I want to highlight the treatment of capital reimbursement and capital spending in this regulation, because I think that is the starkest example of how this regulation is going to have unintended consequences that will be detrimental to residents and staff. So capital is reimbursed in nursing home rates as a pass-through. Approved capital expenses, the expenses that the Department of Health and all of you approve when CONs come before you, are reimbursed through the rates on a pass-through basis in a capital component. This regulation excludes the vast majority of that capital reimbursement from the definition of revenue. There's a small exception for the incremental capital expense in the previous 3 years. I don't know of many major capital projects that are funded over a 3-year period and paid for. So I think that exception, although it's not fleshed out in the regulation or in the statute, is a very narrow exclusion. So the vast majority of capital reimbursement will be included in revenue, but those capital expenses will not be counted towards direct care. So we are in the middle of a pandemic involving an airborne virus. The Department of Health and the CDC have urged and required facilities to make a variety of changes to their operations and their physical plants in order to prevent transmission of this virus. They've directed us to cohort residents. They've directed very rigid visitation provisions and asked for social distancing during visitation, et cetera. But facilities that want to make changes to their physical plants, that want to upgrade their HVAC systems, will not be able to count those expenses in this direct care spending requirement. And they will be required to count the capital reimbursement they receive. We also know that small house facilities and facilities that are known as greenhouse facilities have had much better rates of infection prevention than traditional facilities. Our members that want to create small houses will not be able to do so as a result of this regulation. Finally, just a few more technical issues. We need to revise the definition of revenues to exclude payments that are made on a retroactive or delayed basis, like quality payments, so that high quality providers that receive quality payments from the quality pool in a subsequent year are not penalized and have to pay back those quality payments. And we need to make sure that pass-through funds are not counted in revenue. Finally, I want to point out that administrative expenses are rising dramatically for nursing homes as a result of the pandemic. The reporting requirements, the daily HERDS reporting, the weekly HERDS reporting, the federal NHSN reporting, and more are costing them a lot of money for administration. None of those expenses will be counted towards direct care expenses. We are eager to work with you to improve quality in nursing homes, and our members are eager to work with you as well, but this regulation is not going to achieve that goal. As many of you recognized, last week, Governor Hochul declared a statewide emergency due to healthcare staffing shortages. So we are in a crisis, and I am really not sure why, given this crisis, this regulation is before you today. When Governor Hochul issued that emergency declaration, she waived dozens of statutes and regulations in order to enable healthcare facilities to appropriately staff their facilities. Unfortunately, not one of those waivers will enable nursing homes to bring more CNAs into their buildings. They did not affect the ability of nursing homes to add to their CNA staffing. Let me tell you a little bit about what's going on in the field, and I'll make it brief. In nursing homes, our members have positions that remain open for months at a time with no applicants. They pay signing bonuses, referral incentives, shift differentials, retention bonuses, and they cannot fill these open positions. Executives, CEOs, administrators are working evening and weekend shifts to empty trash, change linens, and feed residents. And they don't complain. They are honored to be part of this effort and this response, and they recognize the impact it has, the positive impact on residents and staff. Most of our members have stopped taking admissions. Many are closing units. Some are considering transferring residents because they don't have sufficient staff. And no one expects these conditions to be resolved in the next 3 months. These are all short-term fixes. They're not financially viable in the long run. And the reason they're not financially viable is because of the Medicaid rates. Steve Hans spoke about the Medicaid rates. Nursing homes can't compete with hospitals and physician practices for staff because they're heavily reliant on Medicaid, and the Medicaid rates are wholly inadequate. Even if these rates weren't so low, arbitrary numbers of hours for selected types of staff are not good public policy because they don't recognize the different types of staff that are used in nursing homes and in hospitals, as Mr. Kraut pointed out, to serve residents. Different facilities have different levels of acuity and different types of residents that require different types of staff. So this regulation is really ill-advised, especially during a pandemic when flexibility is needed, and the Department of Health itself recognized this in its August 2020 report on minimum staffing. We hope that sentiment will prevail. We are ready and willing to work with you to do everything possible to improve nursing home quality, but we just need the resources to do that and a collaborative approach.